Be here now.
In your experience this time, what's the most important thing that you can do?
I can use every experience of my life as a vehicle for working on myself, to extricate myself from the attachments of mind so that I can be a statement of peace, of presence, of love, of clarity, so that all my manifestations heal. And all I can do is work on myself. And sometimes I work on myself through being in the world, and sometimes I work on myself through pulling back. Like I've been on the road now for, seems like millions of years, but like last year I was giving a lecture in a city every other night for 6 or 8 months. And it's incredibly grueling until you just surrender into it, and you're just using it as a set of experiences. Somebody worships you, so. Somebody puts you down, so. And you just keep absorbing it into your being. And now I'm pulling back, and I'm going to go off to India, and I'm going to sit in meditation under meditation masters for a period of time, and I'm going to deepen my concentration and deepen the quietness of my mind. The game is to quiet the mind, open the heart, keep the energies moving, and do what you can to relieve suffering. I don't know what else to do. I'm just passing the time. I mean, it's all cosmic play. I really experience being aligned with God at play. It feels to me, as Hermann Hesse has said through Leo in Journey to the East, he says it's all a game, a beautiful game. It's just very scary to think of it as a game. It doesn't mean game in the sense of trivial. It means game in the sense of exquisiteness of form. And if anything, I am an appreciator of the beauties of God's manifestation. I'm just delighted. I mean, I'm just awed by it all, including this chaos. And that's why the 80s is so exciting, because they're just full of this stuff that you can grow through. Optimum conditions for growth. You can either get burned out and freaked, or you can grow. You have that choice. The soul grows, the personality gets burned out. That's what's happened. You can't ride through this one on your personality. It's too heavy. But the soul is delighting, because this is soul food. The 80s are soul food, no doubt.
Right. Wow.
I've got one story that's so delicious, if I could just take a moment.
Please do.
I was giving a lecture in the 60s where everybody came in white with flowers, and they were all love and lighters, you know. And I was sort of an uncle to the club, and I'd tell far-out acid stories, you know, and everybody would go, yeah, yeah. And there was in the front row a woman about 70, and she had on a hat with strawberries and cherries and a black patent leather pocketbook and solid Oxfords, and she was sitting in the audience, and I'd say these outrageous things, and she'd go, yeah. And I'd think, how does she know? She's not an acid head. How does she know these things? So I'd say something more outrageous, and she'd go like this. Finally, at the end, I couldn't resist, you know, and I sort of encouraged her to come up, and she came up and she said, oh, thank you. That made perfect sense. I understood that all perfectly. I said, how do you know? What have you done in your life that leads you to understand this? And she leaned forward very conspiratorially, and she said, I crochet. At that moment, I knew it wasn't the way I thought it was. I knew, because to me, you only got there if you went to India or you took drugs. And I saw that methods are methods are methods are methods, and everybody's got their own route through.
Great. What is your mission with regard to this?
I don't experience having a mission. I experience that, I'm dying into Dharma. I'm dying into being an instrument of that which relieves suffering, because I don't see what else you do with your time while you're in form. I mean, it's interesting that before you awaken, you look at the 10 Commandments as, you know, don't strike me, I'm going to do it. You know, you're afraid of being hit. And then after you start to awaken, you look and you say, obvious, any damn fool sees that. If I steal from you, I'm stealing from myself. I don't want to live in a paranoid world that includes thieves. So it changes the whole nature of the game. And I experience myself as becoming more and more that formless in form, in which every act you do is an act designed to relieve suffering. Not because you're a good guy, just because that's what you are. It's like you breathe, it's the same thing. So I don't have a missionary sense. I feel that each of us, I went from being busy, insecure, trying to be special, trying to be somebody, you know, because I was feeling inadequate, original sin, separateness, and I'm going to become somebody, and who are you, and what have you been doing, and what's your title, and all, to seeing in the Zen sense that the game was to become nobody special. So I went around and did a lecture tour called Nothing New by Nobody Special, okay? And then, when I got rooted in nobody specialness, I began to understand the concept of uniqueness, that I had a unique function. Not special, but unique. It's no better or worse than anybody else's. Just because I'm a front man doesn't mean that I'm special in that role. It's just my part. And I see a mother raising a child as equally doing her part, and somebody driving a bus with compassion as doing his part or her part. And I'm beginning to appreciate individual differences in terms of unique manifestation of God in all these forms and all these faces. And I'm just dying into my unique form of manifesting God. Okay.
That's beautiful. Just beautiful.
The answer to the question, what has the good news got to do with people that are starving, with people that are in hell at this moment, of which there are many? The answer is that we are all interconnected, and that we are to see things only on the physical plane is a very narrow view of the way the whole game works. And there are incredible vibratory qualities of earth consciousness that are involved here. And that if you and I understand what we're talking about, these qualities, we start to become beacons of a process that goes out, just like a pebble dropped in a pool, and it goes out, and you might get on a bus, and everybody you meet on that bus, like I'll get on a bus and meet a bus driver who's like the Buddha in drag, being a bus driver, and everybody that gets on that bus, people that are tired, that have been working and shopping, just in the way that driver drives the bus and takes their money, is a quality that lightens their load just a little bit. And every one of us that has come out of the mire of the illusion of separateness is putting out just a little teeny bit of light. I remember having a vision once in which I was taken out of my body, and I found myself among a group of elders somewhere or other. I don't know anything about these astral planes, but I was somewhere. And they said to me, do you want to go back? And I said, well, does it make a difference? And they said, well, look for yourself. And I looked on the earth, and I saw these little tiny bits of light everywhere, because every heart is like the Atman in Hinduism. Every heart is a beacon of that thing. And I saw that my going back would be just one more of those. It's like the difference between a 60-watt bulb and a 61-watt bulb. It's that little. And it's like Gandhi saying, what you do may seem very insignificant, but it's very important that you do it. It was that sense of, I said, okay, it makes a difference, I'll go back. And in a way, to understand the way we are all one awareness is to work on yourself and offer that to your fellow human beings.
Be here now. Just be here now.